Hey you guys. Okay. I parts of my hair is just making me cringe. But that's okay. That's what happens when you have very dark hair and you go very light. It's going to make you cringe for a bit. It's very bright. I'm just glad it's not gray and dark and mousy and anymore. Now really I have the bleach here to do it again. And I need to get one more toner after I see the results of that last bleaching. I have the stuff here to do it, to bring up all those spots that are ugly trouble spots. But I'm waiting because I really need to let my hair rest, let my scalp rest, and heal probably for at least a week. I really want to do it again in like 2 days and just get this color up all the way where it needs to be. It's not all the way up to the shade it needs to be. But anyway, I'll live with it. Anyway, on to something a bit more meaningful. Um, I was watching another woman's video a minute ago. I don't think I know her, but she's on my friends list. And she was in a really vulnerable place as she was speaking. And I just thought, I just admire that so much. People that, that's not easy. It's not. It is not easy to be vulnerable. It is not easy, and especially not easy to get on camera and cry out, speak out to the world, whatever your intentions are. You might be killing 3 or 4 birds with one stone with your intentions. It is possible to really feel in that moment that you are so alone and backed into a corner, and that everybody close to you is misunderstanding you, or you just never know what someone's going through. And it might be the only thing that helps set that energy free and keeps you from feeling so alone, is that you can grab onto that phone and you know that even if you're not in the physical presence of someone talking back to you, you get this feeling of validation at that point. You get this feeling of connectedness at that point. And I think it's a miracle that we're able to do stuff like that now. You know, things used to be a lot harder. We didn't have these outlets because somewhere somebody is gonna see it and hear it. And there may be other reasons why people do stuff like that too, of course. If they have a channel or they are growing their channel or wanting to build subscribership, followers, make some money, get some donations, whatever it is, trying to fundraise. People have a lot of stuff going on and many intentions at one time sometimes. But it doesn't necessarily take away from the authenticity of it in that moment, what they're feeling in that moment. So anyway, this woman was just, discussing some things in her video that had been going on in her life. And she was just really sweet and in a really vulnerable place. And it made me think of all the videos I've made since 2017. All the different types of things that I've shared. Moments, attitudes, feelings, emotions. And I started thinking, one of the reasons people might ask, and even for the strongest of people, there are different personalities in this world. Some of us are a little more timid, a little more shy, a little more self-conscious, a little more easygoing and laid back. Some of us are a little more assertive and brazen and bold and outspoken and opinionated, whatever. Some of us are nice mixes of the two of those things, depending on what's going on in our lives. It really just all depends. But it's hard. Even for the most brazen and assertive and outgoing of people, it can still be hard to put yourself in an extremely vulnerable place. I know it's the norm now. Everybody's got a camera. Everybody's on TikTok. Everybody's on social media. Everybody and their mama and their babies and their kids, entire families are used to living on camera now, like one big collective reality show. It's kind of weird. It's kind of bizarre and not good at the same time that it's fucking fantastic and amazing and filled with opportunity and more ability to connect and learn and communicate and network, all that. I feel both of those ways at once, kind of. But it's not easy. It is not freaking easy, even for the strongest and most assertive of people. The reason they got that way is because they continued to push themselves through vulnerable moments and walk through fear. You know, I can speak for me personally, I can't speak for everyone. Not every bold person is working on themselves and self actualizing and working on themselves emotionally and spiritually. Some people are just fucking bold. And it's just is what it is. And they may not have a softer side. I don't know. But for me personally, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of work over the years and a lot of dedication and determination to face fears, to have an agreement with myself that I would face fears, that I would not turn back, that no matter how long it took me, no matter how much back and forth, no matter how much inner turmoil or spiritual war, or how much normal human ego mind fear and self-consciousness and insecurities, no matter what I had to go through, no matter what it looked like at the time or what came out of me, that eventually I would transmute every single one of those levels. That I would do my best to come through each and every one of those things and face them and walk through them and come through them with some kind of higher understanding, you know, with some kind of maturity and higher perspective and love, healing, you know, no matter what it is. And that shit is damn hard. But a lot of us got that way where we can be more assertive and more brazen and more bold and outspoken and put ourselves in a vulnerable place where we are wide open like that because we worked really, really hard to get there. We worked really, really hard on ourselves. Okay. And it's still a vulnerable place. I don't care how confident you look or how confident we sound on the internet or what our aura vibe is in the videos. Each and every person still has vulnerability. You're still placing yourself in a very vulnerable position to be ridiculed by others, to be shamed, to have trolls come at you, to be mocked, for people to misunderstand you and take everything you say out of context. You are in a very vulnerable place. Okay. And so I was just thinking, one reason that I started doing that, I've explained numerous times my plans, the seeds I wanted to sow, the things I wanted to start back 6, 7, 8 years ago. You know, I wanted to start blogging when that was popular, and I wanted to talk about my childhood, and I wanted to take all of that trauma and experience and do something in this life with it. And I used to write songs and record, and, you know, and I wanted to gravitate over to social media at some point. I wanted to write a book. I wanted to have social media stuff. And you know, but I had not yet honed in on exactly what I wanted to do with it, exactly how I wanted to come across. And then shit happened in my life and chaos started happening, and I was in a relationship and all these fucking things were going on and all these triggers. And I just dove in head first because the videos were the easiest thing for me to get to. It was multi-purpose. It was saving me. It was giving me an outlet. And at the same time, all those plans I had in the back of my mind, I was starting to sow the seeds for that. Because eventually I wanted to grow in, you know, the social media respect, or learning video editing, or God knows where it can take a person, and help others truly, you know, share these experiences and just feel as I go on about my day, my regular job, whatever I'm doing in life, just feel that feeling of having fulfilled part of my purpose. You know, I feel like we all have different purposes here on earth, okay? And our day job is just but one thing. We have to stay alive. We have to feed our families. We have to pay bills. You know, that's one thing. But we also have other jobs on this earth. We have other things that we came here and developed, these gifts, other unique qualities and talents, and that we can all share with each other and encourage each other in, and just help each other through things. It's never going to be perfect. We're never all going to be on exactly the same level or frequency or the same perspectives about everything, but you get what I'm saying. So I just remember thinking during a lot of those times, you know, why would you share at the worst of times? How were you so bold to do that? Well, one thing, I was living on a lot of chaos back then. And when you are in the adrenaline and the high of having to just go, 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 no matter what, I gotta survive. And you're living with chaos in your life, and you may have an addicted partner or somebody you're helping to look after, and that's got a lot of chaos all over, and you're having extreme anxiety every day, and your home life is not quiet and peaceful and balanced as it used to be, and you're really struggling to keep it that way, and all kinds of things are happening. You're having to move around a lot, and I went through every circumstance imaginable back when Chad and I were together in those years. And I don't know. I'm not putting blame on him. I'm ultimately responsible for my choices in life and who I stay with and who I allow. But just being connected to something like that, that's a deeper insight I would like to give people one day too. Just being connected to someone else who is completely chaotic and lost and completely consumed in their addiction, it will impact you. No matter how you've been used to living, no matter how much work and balance you've created within your life, eventually it will impact you. And it will start pulling you off of your balances. And you will start acting out of character. You will start living out of the ordinary. Things will go in a crazy way. They will go in a vortex. Ways that you never would have dreamed you would be living. Experiences you would never have dreamed you would be having. Some of them really good. Some of them really bad. And as long as each individual decides until their soul is ready to evolve through that and move away from that, or until God decides it's time to move away from those circumstances where you can get your life back under peace and balance again, then you will remain connected to that, loving that person, trying with that person, trying to keep everything balanced. And in the midst of that, it's not always just for no reason. It's not always that you're just going in circles and there's no learning, there's no bonding, there's no connecting taking place. Within that time, even though it is chaotic, that's what a lot of people on the outside don't understand. Within that time, every minute, every day, every second that you spend together, whether it's bad, good, in between, beautiful, ugly, all the experiences that you have with that person. In the in-betweens, I don't know, maybe everybody's not like me, but I was constantly learning and growing and feeling on an even deeper and an even deeper and an even more profound level as time went on. Many things about me came to the surface that I needed to face and look at and deal with and feel, triggered up by him, and we triggered each other. Many things that he needed to feel and face and deal with in his life came up, and just so many things. So there's lots of stuff going on in the in-betweens. It's not just, oh, well, whatever. But during that time, I went through a lot of shit, from, losing places to live, and Chad would go off to jail or to rehab for months. And I'm strong naturally. As long as I have my car, you damn right, I'm going to hit the streets. I'm going to get to work somewhere, and I'm going to take care of myself, which is what I did. And either, at the time I didn't have an apartment, couldn't afford an apartment, didn't have all the deposits and things like that. So I'd go rent myself a hotel room. And, I had my little dog to think about too. Sometimes he stayed at my mother's, sometimes with me. Or there was a time where I had to live in my car. Okay. Scary times. But I thought to myself this morning, you filmed a lot of that. All those years, something was driving you to continue talking, continue filming. It was helping you cope. It was helping you release. And another thing, you're not one of these people who only films when you're feeling good. You're not, it's just, whether people like that or not, whether that's a bad quality or not, it is not within me. I have to have a balance of things. So I'm not one of these people that can just, even though I love to give peaceful, inspired, happy, fun talks and just chit chat and, whatever, even though that's the goal in my heart and I like to stay in that energy, that would be too fucking fake for me. If that's the only time that I wanted to speak, or the only time that I filmed, or the only energy that I had, that would not be authentic to me, because I have a very pronounced dark side as well. And I have a lot of things that I struggle with. And I just thought, I wanted to share those times as well, because that is real. That is authentic. And it shows people. I wanted to be able to not only make videos and talk to people and share things when I'm perfectly okay and perfectly put together and feeling great and everything's perfect, but I wanted to do it at times where I was completely fucking torn apart too, where I was struggling with mental and emotional issues and pain and grief and fear and different living situations and coming through a lot of things, because that's real. Real fucking people can relate to that. And because also I knew back then that it was all part of a process. And that is something for you to maybe realize for yourself as well, that sometimes you are simply working a process. It feels like it's never going to end. It feels like you are never going to feel better. It's middle age is really hard, coming through all that and changes of life and changes in relationships and families and losing people and your own mental and emotional stuff. And, especially if you're a highly spiritual person, it can start to get cray. And you need things to ground yourself and balance yourself and keep calm. And it can be fucking difficult through all that. And so another reason that sometimes I will make videos when I feel like all hell, when I feel like shit, or when I am in a very vulnerable place, when I'm not feeling so powerful, when I'm not feeling so well, just because that's life, that's human, that's real. And oftentimes when I was going through those things, I doubted myself. I questioned a lot. I had a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear, and it was really hard for me to keep that faith, that inner knowing of where I'm headed, and that this is part of a process that had to be worked in my life, to work through many, many years, all the way back from childhood, old residue and all that programming and everything that I used to live, to work through a lot of that mental, emotional, and spiritual crap and keep evolving and come through it on the other side. Do the healing work, keep transmuting it to get to a more well-balanced and peaceful level. I had a lot of recovery to put into myself. I gave out a lot of time and energy until one point I was almost dead. So I had a lot of focus to put back on myself and a lot of trauma to come through. Fear, terror, anger, resentment, grief, breathtaking amounts of grief and loss. And so, yeah, a lot of times people ask, or wonder, God, how embarrassing. How could somebody get on here when they're crying? Or how could they get on here, when they are feeling so off balance and so off center and they're going through so much? Because that's real. And because also I wanted people to have that contrast, that it is possible. I wanted people to have hope. I wanted to give an example of hope. And a lot of times when people meet you, when you're all put back together, shined up like a new penny, feeling a lot better, life is going well for you, you're feeling like your old self and then some, a new self, they would never know. And they often judge. Clueless. They would never know what you lived through. They would never know how you crawled to get where you are. They would never know these things. And there's a lot of people in the world like that. You never know who you're looking at. You never know what they have seen. Never know what's in their closet. But a lot of times it's like that. People will meet you and just kind of get an impression, and oh, her life must be easy, and oh, she's quite a petite, and that and the other, and how can she feel so good and peaceful, and what to be so happy about? And you don't ever know what dark hell someone had to suffer and see before they were able to get to that level of loving life and appreciating on a higher level and loving themselves. And yeah, so oftentimes that is why I was able to film myself in a completely shattered place, vulnerable. Not that I'm crazy, not any of that. It's that contrast is real, and that I knew in those times, just like I know now. It is all coming true. It is all happening. I knew in those times, back in those years, that it was simply part of a process. Even though in my ego mind, it felt like shit. And I raised hell a lot of the time. And I fought it a lot of the time. And a lot was chaos was going on. That's normal. You're going to feel that, even if your soul knows deep down. Just keep moving. It's part of a process. This will work itself out. It may not be in the timely fashion you want it to, but you're headed to a better place. Just keep working. Keep believing in yourself. Keep on the right track. Keep trying to transmute these energies. Try to keep love in your heart. It's going to get tough. You're going to get pissed sometimes. You're human. But I knew back then it was part of a process, and the years were long. And I really didn't have any idea how far down I was going to have to go as far as all this transformation and, Chad passing away. And I didn't foresee all that coming so quickly. But my soul knew that it was coming. But anyway, as time moved on, what I'm saying is, for me, it's been part of a process. It's been part of an emotional and spiritual process of shedding residue and layers and sort of a fucking rebirth and transformation and coming into a second chapter of life. And those were the things for my particular life that I needed to learn, go through, face, remove, sort through, feel, experience on deeper levels. And a lot of it was facing fears. In the last few years of my life, and when I was with Chad too, a lot of things that would have been my worst nightmares actually came to pass. And I had to walk through them. It was crazy circumstances and certain things happening. And so, there was a lot of facing fears, which brings me back to full circle as far as how some people got to be the way they are, where they can just be very forthcoming and very outgoing and outspoken and assertive and say what they say and share like that and put themselves in a vulnerable place publicly or whatever. It's because of all the fears they've had to face in the past and walk right through and find a way to overcome that fear, to sit with that fear, accept that fear, and then somehow overcome it, transmute it, and make it, a part of their energy, that they no longer let it be a blockage. They no longer let it be something that stops them, a blockage in their system somewhere that is holding them back from certain things in life or whatever. So you never know, but that's why. And I don't know. I just felt compelled to share that it isn't easy to put yourself in a vulnerable place, but in order to learn and grow in this life, if you can't be vulnerable, if you can't allow yourself to be vulnerable sometimes, it's going to be hard to learn and grow. You have to feel. You have to be able to face things. And It can be difficult as hell. I know that. I know that. But yeah, that's kind of that. That's kind of why I shared, why I did some of that and wasn't fucked up about showing myself at some of the worst times or whatever the hell I was having to live through, hustled through, not looking so good, this, that, and the other, is because I always had that inner knowing of who I am and that that's part of my process. That's not my entire life. And that eventually I'm going to come through all of that to a better day, to a stronger day. And I want people to know that. I want others who are struggling to know that and see that. You know, that you might just be working a process in your life, getting to where you need to be. And it seems like forever we can be stuck there. It requires patience. It requires a deep inner knowing. And perhaps connection with your higher power or higher self, whatever works for you people. I can't tell you what that is or nothing at all. But for me, yes, a deep inner knowing and connection with higher self and higher power and higher guidance, that eventually I would come through all that and that there was hope and that there would be a better day, a more calm day when things would ease up, time, healing, patience. And oh God, the days that I just drug myself along. I could tell you guys some things that just, it is what it is though. But I want people to know that yeah, I mean, a lot of us have light and dark sides, always will. But I want people to remember that there will come a day, whatever you're working for, whatever you're afraid isn't going to happen, you have to face those fears and get those fears off and just use that strong sense of inner knowing, and keep going. But I wanted people to know that yes, there is hope even in the damn darkest of places. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's a real thing. You can bounce back. You can keep evolving and growing. And just because you had to go so far down, just because for a long time you felt helpless, hopeless, defenseless, worthless, ugly, good for nothing, everything in your fucking world was failing, you felt too old, or you felt, burned out, or whatever the case was, and you could not, you were having to walk in so much shame and so much feeling like a failure and all of these things, terrible anxiety, and, seeing that life so far away that you used to be, and the incredible strength and motivation and things you wanted to accomplish. I know what it feels like to go that far down and have to sit in that void, in that darkness, that prison. But I wanted people to know that's why I don't just talk about it. That's why I often film myself there in the past. Torn apart, confused, angry, hurting, scared, anxiety attacks, whatever the fuck was going on. Because I wanted people to know there's hope. There's hope. You just have to keep that inner knowing and focus on where you're going. And that eventually you will come out of it. It will come full circle. It is often just a process of your life. Just an emotional shedding process, a time out period. And if you're highly spiritual, that's a whole other thing. A spiritual time out period, upgrade, downloads, recalibrating, getting your spiritual strength so that you can keep ascending the levels of consciousness, and you'll come out on a whole new frequency. Eventually, it all will come full circle if you hang on to you and your higher self and your sense of connection to higher power, whatever it is. That was always helpful to me. That's not for everybody. But yeah, that's why I did it. Because I knew that some of the hell I had lived through and some of the depths that I had fallen to and the way I was having to live and the energy, I knew in the future people wouldn't even fucking believe it. They would have no idea what all I had lived through, what I had been through, what I had seen in my life. And that I was able, I didn't give up on myself, and I kept working on myself, doing my inner work and, whatever, what have you. And yes, I have been blessed. I have been blessed in my life with good friends and good mentors and teachers and people who care about me, to guide me along, encourage me along, and help me along at times. Yes. And I thank God for those people. But then there have also been times where, hey, you're on your own. You're on your own, and there's no resentment about that because nobody owes me anything. But there have been times where ain't nobody going to hold your hand all night, every night. Nobody. I don't even care the closest of situations, even husband, wives, friends, parents, kids, whatever, grown kids. I'm saying once you're grown, there will be times at some point where you are your only emotional support system in the fear and the terror. And I don't care who you're married to or not, or how much family you have around, or how many friends. There will be times where they're not around, where you can't rely on that. And that's nothing to be angry about. Sure, it's great to have people to rely on, but I don't blame that on other people. I don't ever feel like something external to myself is supposed to be responsible for me emotionally. Now, I know a lot of people are in that type of thinking. Well, I need to be able to rely on them to do this, and they should do that, and they should feel this, and I should be able to rely. Ultimately not. Ultimately, it's up to you. It's up to us. Okay? They've done enough. I'm just saying. I'm not going to get all into the ins and outs of that. It's absolutely great to have close friends, family partners, relationship partners, and people like that in our lives who are emotionally strong and understanding of us and always there to give us a shoulder, and they care, and we can rely on that as a solid. That's great, but it's not their job, and they don't owe us that. They owe us respect and decency, yes, but I've just seen so many people take advantage of that. I need to rely on you as an emotional crutch. And then you end up being turned into a therapist, a nurse, an on-call, 24/7 on-call person without the salary. And it ends up affecting your life, your concentration. Oh my God. I have seen that, where unfairly one person gets backed into a corner constantly with several different people's needs, demands, fears, anxieties, phone calls at all hours of the night, trying to rely on that one person's healing energy, that one person's ability to empathize so deeply and listen so well and give them comforting and sound advice. If you let people know you're capable of that, that energy will start coming for you, clawing for you. There's a lot of scared and suffering people in this world. And I've been there myself with an anxiety disorder all my life. I know the terror. I know what it's like to just have terror from out of nowhere that you can't even explain. Okay? I know all those levels. But what I'm saying is, yeah, that can happen to you. People start coming for that. And even though in your heart you want to be a support to other people, at some point it can really take your energy. And this is no bullshit, and it is no cliche. I'm living, walking proof of what can happen to a person who doesn't have a governor or a barometer or a regulator on how much of their empathy and energy is going out to other people. I know what happened to me. It broke me. Okay? So this is a different way for me to share energy, to be supportive, to be encouraging, to help others, to help myself. So yeah, it all kind of goes in one package. And it's not that I don't still do things in life with others and connect and all that. I do, but I'm a lot more structured and careful about it these days, and a lot more protective of my energy because I know where it took me. So, and I wanted to share stuff like that there is hope. Okay. And I wanted people to see that contrast, the difference, because I always knew. You know who you are. No matter what dark times I'm watching the time, because I know the sound volume cuts off on Facebook. You know who you are. No matter how dark it gets, no matter how they look at you, no matter how vulnerable and awful and worthless you might feel when you fall down or you get kicked down or you go through these turbulences in life, you remember who you are. And you hang on to that through that, and you will be back even better than you were before. Later, y'all.